It is really cold out tonight. I gotta put my gloves on before I freeze. So this may surprise a lot of you watching. Let me just do my clap for audio sync, by the way. I almost forgot to. Across the street, you may notice that retail space is actually still for lease. Now, I know this may be a surprise to some of the people that watch these videos and are aware of the great deals to be had in Manhattan right now and the very fair prices that are being charged for the real estate here. But there are indeed quite a few deals. Anyway, so let's ride around. All right, so what I wanted to discuss today is actually something that came up from one of the videos that I did recently. I remember talking about on-the-job training, and someone had asked, what do you have against on-the-job training, or why did I have the comments that I did? And so someone else made a good point. He said, I find it hypocritical that many of the people that don't do on-the-job training are also the ones that lament the lack of experienced people in their field. And I thought it was worth a conversation. It's actually a really good question because it ties into another point that I wanted to make here. Once it's yellow, uh, which is that anytime I've had to learn something really quickly, anytime I had to do, in order to succeed, I needed to learn this in a week or 2 weeks or a month. Every time I needed to do something like that, it almost never worked out. It's something that I used to mention to Jessa Jones when we were teaching together in 2015. Jessa Jones and I used to teach Practical Board Repair School in 2015 before we drove each other nuts. She's one of my best friends, but we still drive each other crazy. I really like the fact that she has a practical approach to the class. It's not, here's how to re-hot something on a Nokia 3310. It's, here's how to do something on a phone that people actually use. But anyway, one of the things that we found out really quickly is that the people who came to the course who were, if I add it to my skill set, I add it to my skill set, and if I don't, then I don't, actually tended to do really, really well. They learned a lot, they absorbed a lot, and the class was valuable for them. And the people that showed up that thought, I just quit my job, I put in my 2 weeks notice, and I'm using my severance pay from that job to pay for this class so that I could get a career in micro soldering, so that when my kid is born next month, I will have money to pay for everything. The individuals that did that tended to perform really poorly, not learn much, and not get well. And it's weird because you'd think that the people that have high stakes, that need for it to work out, are the people for whom everything would work out. But it tended to be literally the exact opposite. And I've noticed the same for myself when it's come to anything that I've looked to learn, any job that I've tried to get. Anytime I needed to learn something in order for something to happen, or I needed to get certified in a week or two, it tended to go poorly. I tended to do badly. I didn't learn it because, there's a few reasons. A, there's a question of whether I really wanted it. Like, did I really want to learn this particular skill or thing, or was I just doing it because I wanted the money? But mainly, when stressed out, which you typically are, if the only purpose of learning something new is so that you can pay for your lifestyle and pay for your kids' food and checkups and all that shit, you're gonna be very stressed. And when human beings are very stressed, that's not typically the best time to learn. You can't really absorb information. You can't experiment. You can't be in the mindset that you need to be in to learn when you're stressed out. So the people that came to the class that were really stressed out, that needed to learn board repair this week for their new career because they just quit their job and they just moved out and this is their last hope, tended to almost always fail. But the people that are like, this seems like a cool thing. If I get it, I learn a new skill set, and if I don't, oh well. They really learned a lot. And, it's always been the same for me with any of the jobs that I've tried, any of the things that I've taken. I tried to become an insurance salesperson. I took a course on salesmanship. Oh, my God. Can you imagine me in a salesmanship course? It's as bad as you probably imagine it to be. It was pretty horrible. I suck. I sucked. I was the worst health insurance salesman you could ever imagine. Yeah, in 2008, I spent some of my time in my life selling insurance. It was about as bad as you could expect a genius bar trying to do board repair. Leave it at that. Probably worse. I'm being generous with myself there. That went pretty badly. I tried a job. There are a few other jobs that I tried. They're like odd, random things, and virtually every single one of them, if I needed something to succeed immediately, almost always went bad. And that was for me as as an employee. And as an employer, I've noticed pretty much the exact same thing that I noticed as when I was a teacher and also when I was an employee, which is anytime someone needed to make something work in X amount of time, it really doesn't work out. It tends to not work out. It doesn't matter how much time I give them. It doesn't matter if I try to work one-on-one. It doesn't matter if I try to create a guide of all the basic and simple problems. It just doesn't tend to. I could literally create a guide that says when you have this issue, here is what's probably causing it. It can be in bold. It can be in front of you, and I will have people ignore it. I think a part of it is the stress of needing to learn it in a certain amount of time. I think that could be said to be a part of it. Times Square is looking a little busier than it used to. Don't get me wrong, it's still dead compared to what it used to be, but it's slightly busier. So if I think about the people at the store who are the top employees, the ones that are the ones that really make me proud. Well, let's take someone like Steve. So he's the data recovery person. Now, he didn't take a class in data recovery. I didn't put out a job ad for data recovery. He got so bored dealing with having to deal with all the douchebag customers because his job, so he showed up here supposed to be a technician in 2013. And the way it actually worked out was he was kind of slower than the main technician at the time. And the main technician was so bad at dealing with people that Steve would actually wind up running in front of him, telling him just go back there, just go back to work. And then he would deal with the customer, and he would take a customer that wanted to leave a 1-star review and pay nothing into a customer that would actually leave a 5-star review and pay $250. He was absolutely magic when it came to dealing with people. So he kind of had that as a job. But after about 5 years of the same thing, he started to, I imagine, get bored of it. It's just, hey, Steve, this person's being a douchebag. Hey, Steve, that person's being an asshole. Hey, this person said the screen cracked on their own and wants to stay on the phone for 2 hours about it. Hey, this person said they didn't spill something when they clearly spilled something again and wants to argue about it for half an hour and thinks that, we poured the coffee. At some point, that he just got fucking tired of that being his job. So at the same time, we also had another data recovery technician, very nice guy, very good guy. I hope the best for him. But there were certain jobs where he wasn't leaving the best of notes and he wasn't really giving people the best. Steve thought maybe there was he wasn't putting his best foot forward, or he just didn't have the patience for it. So Steve, so sick and tired of having to explain certain elements of these cases to customers, started to try and figure out how to do the data recovery himself. So he would stay late, half an hour, or when the store was dead, he would just go through a pile of dead drives that customers had recycled here from computers they hadn't picked up for 2 or 4 years. Clicking drives and just open it, mess with it, experiment with it. It wasn't the stuff that belonged to the customer anymore because if they wanted it, they would have picked it up after two effing years. And it wasn't stuff that we needed to do work on. It wasn't like, we needed to recover it. Or where if we don't recover the data, or he opens it and screws it up, it matters. This is something that belongs to no one. And he started experimenting with him every now and then. And he was staying a little bit late every single day, and he was putting a little bit more time in every single day. He was showing up early, he was reading stuff online at night, doing his research. And after about a year or two of this, all the time, he started to get really good at it. And now he's amazing at it. I think he's great. My one complaint is that regardless of what I would pay someone, I can't fucking duplicate him. The one mistake that we made this year is we started doing data recovery and trying to be cheaper than the other businesses. And he wound up with a queue of 100 items in it. Big fail, but I've told people I could literally put up an ad on ZipRecruiter for twice Steve's salary for someone, and nobody will apply or show up that's even 1/10 as good as him. I've tried. It's a difficult industry to hire for. But anyway, he learned one of the things that gave him the freedom to learn and do really well is that he did not have to learn. If he opened those drives and he read up at night and failed, those drives did not belong to anyone. His role as a manager of this business, as someone who deals with customers in a manner that allows us to have a good reputation for a business that cares about its customers, that wants to do good service, that looks after shit, make sure things get done. He had job security there. So he was safe to try and do something else and mess around and see what happened. And what happened is he got great at it. Or take Paul, for instance, one of the best board repair people I've ever hired. He is amazing at board repair. He is meticulous. He is detail-oriented. He solves. I remember at the beginning, I would meme him when it wasn't too busy, and like if I saw the queue was kind of dead, I would have a board that I spent an hour and a half on, I give up on. I would give it to him as a joke. He actually would take it seriously and try to fix it, and he'd actually fix it. He's really good at this as a job. Amazing. How did he learn? You know, it wasn't an on-the-job thing so much as he was a moderator of my stream, and he had a job, and you know, he thought the job kind of sucked. If he can go, I can too. No traffic, no guilt, and he thought, you know, his job kind of sucked from the way he explained it. So what he did was he was moderating the stream, and he would listen to the stream while he had nothing better to do or while he was doing other work. And he got himself a couple of tools at home, you know, not the fancy schmancy setup in the world, but just something that allowed him to, you know, try to replicate the stuff that I do on stream. And he was able to make a setup for himself that really allowed him to learn. So by the time he got here, he knew how to reball a chip. He was listening to the streams every day, so he kind of had an idea what all the power rails were. So it wasn't, I have to memorize all the stuff so I don't get fired. It was rather, I kind of already have all this stuff in my head. You know, I was just messing around for the hell of it. And then a year and a half in, he came in for an interview, and he solved the board that I gave him immediately. It was just like right then and there. You know, the people that I found that are the best at what they do are the people that didn't really have to learn what they were learning on a strict timetable, or even for myself. You know, I wanted to get into board repair in 2009, 2010. I tried in 2010. That was awful. That was awful. Tried again in 2012. I got my Hacko FR801, bought some chips. I damn near wanted to cry. I think I still remember the first chip that I ever wound up actually buying was a HAT 1127. I was such a noob. I thought on the 820-2530 that when you're not getting a green light, the issue was with a corroded HAT 1127, rather than the actual issue being that U6901 is a corroded PP342_G3 hot via going through the board. You just put a little piece of 46 gauge wire through it, solder it to the PP342 via, and it'll work. But I just thought, oh, this corroded. Me replacing this corroded. The HAT 1127 is never going to break. That was ridiculous. That was me being a moron and not knowing what I was doing. But I was an idiot. Tried again, 2013. Fail. Tried again, 2014. I would just, you know, stay late every night. You know, I already had a business that was kind of working for me. It wasn't like if I didn't learn board repair, my business would die. I knew at some point in the future I needed to be doing this in-house. You can't be outsourcing this shit. And I knew that there was a future in it. But it wasn't required. So I'd stay late every now and then, every couple of hours. You know, I didn't have to learn it. And I learned it. And my own experience getting good at this was the catalyst for me to realize that people like me are probably some of the worst on-the-job learners. Because I started in 2010, and I got it in 2014. Now, when you're an employer and you're hiring somebody with some on-the-job learning, what you're looking for is that someone, you're really looking at the slope or the curve. So let's say that somebody starts off and they're a 2 out of 10 in skill set. And you need them to be at an 8 out of 10 in order to be good enough to work at your company. And let's say, so what you're looking for is that, let's say you have a probation period of like 2 or 3 months to see if they're going to learn it. You're really looking for them to go up half a point a week, right? So like, I guess I'm kind of doing shitty math here, but approximately like half a point a week will get them to the 8 or 9 area inside of a few months. So you're looking at the slope. So if someone goes from 2 to 5 in a day or two, even if they're not at what you need, that's good. Whereas if someone goes from 2 to 3 in a month and a half and then slips right back down to 2, technically they're learning. They are learning. You're not saying that they can't do it, but they're not learning at a speed that you can deal with. Because let's say you're paying someone $15 an hour. If you do the math, that comes out to $2,400 a month. When it comes out to your share of the payroll taxes and everything else that you got to pay, additional workers' comp insurance, payroll tax, all the other crap, you're probably paying that person. You're probably paying an out-of-pocket expense of $2,700 to train someone. And even if it's only a few hours of someone else's time at the office to just kind of get them oriented and set them up, let's just round it up to like $3,000. Let's say $3,000 a month. So if you have a 3-month probationary period, pretty much every time you take on someone for an on-the-job training, you're making a $9,000 gamble, which is if they're not able to learn, if they're not able to get up to speed, because I think 3 months of on-the-job training or, you know, a $9,000 expenditure is which is, by the way, that's the minimum. That's assuming that you're going to pay the entry-level on-the-job person literally minimum wage, which many won't accept for a higher-level position. You're looking at a $9,000 gamble. And how many $9,000 gambles can a business that is not Walmart or Staples or Best Buy or Apple afford to take before they're just wiped off the map? I remember when like $9,000 was the holy grail. Shit, one of the first like influxes of capital I ever got. I think it was a business loan of about $7,000. I thought that was the holy grail. You know, you can't afford $9,000 just to as a gamble to figure out if someone's going to be good. And again, that assumes you're paying the minimum. If you're not paying minimum wage for an on-the-job employee, then you could be looking at $12,000 or $14,000 or $16,000. Not to train someone, but to figure out if that person will get to where you need. Because remember, on-the-job training means the person has potential, but they don't have the skill set. And the question always becomes, will this person learn the skill set by the end of the 3 months, or the 4 months, or the 5 months? And the reason people like me are the worst at this is people like me don't learn shit until the moment that we get it. So I'm not the type of person where I started at 2, and you need me to be at an 8 within 3 months. And each week, I'm like 0.3 or 0.5 better. That's not me. I'm the person that's a 2, then a month later I'm a 1, then I'm a 1.5, and then 3 or 5 months, or in my case, 4 years in, I went from being like a 2 to a 9. Just overnight, at some point it clicked. It finally clicked and I got it. The same thing happens with my martial arts instructor. I must drive this guy up a fucking wall. One of the things I've learned from my martial arts instructor more than anything else is patience. Patience. Because the patience that guy has with me, with how bad I suck, it genuinely, it's made me a better teacher and I think a more patient person. Because if he can have patience with me, then by God, there's no excuse for me to not have almost limitless patience with anyone. Anyway, he's a great dude. He's a really good guy. Anyway, I don't learn things the way most people learn them, where there's increments and every day you're a little better. I absolutely suck balls at what it is I'm trying to do until the moment that I don't. Kind of like that driver over there. You could tell that guy's a shitty driver, not just based on how he's driving and honking, but also the fact that he has a bunch of dents in the side of his car. Someone with a bunch of dents in the side of their car who honks uncontrollably is typically the sign of a shit driver, because if you weren't a shit driver, you probably wouldn't have a bunch of dents in the side of your car as you're honking at someone who's at a fucking red light. But anyway. So when it comes to on-the-job learning, let's say I hired myself. I could have been paying for 3 to 4 years before I was worth a shit. So one of the reasons that I'm not the biggest fan of on-the-job learning is because what it does is or at least hiring for on-the-job learning, is because I have no way to tell, and I genuinely wish I were better at this. I have no way to tell if you're the type of person who's going to get better week by week until the point that you get what I need. Are you the type of person where you're going to suck for the first 3 or 6 or 7 weeks, and then on week 8 you're just going to get it? Or are you the type of person you're never going to get it, and I'm only going to figure that out at the end of the trial period, once the $9,000 or $12,000 or $16,000 has gone out of pocket? And one of the things with hiring people, right, no refunds. So I've always been I'd rather get someone that knows what they're doing and pay the premium. I don't mind paying like double what the You Break I Fix ad has for a technician or a manager to get someone who knows what they're doing. I'm happy to pay that because when customers walk in and deal with people who know what they're doing, they're going to spend money that they probably wouldn't spend at You Break I Fix, or a place where people are, the techs that are doing high-level work are getting fucking $14 to $17 an hour. See, that guy had the right to honk because a crazy person was crossing the street that just doesn't care about red lights. When you see someone screaming to themselves in New York City, just go in the other direction. Just go in the other direction. Nothing good will come from that. The city is filled with people who are out of their minds, and there's really no benefit to you interacting with it or getting mad over it. But anyway, so I'd rather pay a premium to simply get someone that knows it already, rather than do the on-the-job thing. Because again, people kind of act like the on-the-job thing is, it always leads to someone that knows what they're doing. And like in my case, it genuinely doesn't. I could count on one finger. Let me see, how many people? Let me think, how many people learn this in the job? You know who I could count who learned this in the job? Two people. I've had 2 successes where people were able to learn on the job. And I've hired a lot of people over the past 10 years, a lot of people. The rest of the times it was horrible, absolutely horrible. Now the way I learn stuff, because I know what the follow-up to that usually is well, how is anybody supposed to learn? And this goes back to the whole thing, this one video I did a while ago about the internships. One of the things I found interesting is there was a genuine consensus in the comment section that the unpaid internships are absolute scams. However, I gotta say, that was an excellent way for me to learn. It wasn't a job. It's not like I had to worry about, the person that I was working for, since they did not need to generate a profit off of my work in order for me to be there, I could suck, and it didn't really matter as much. I mean, don't get me wrong, I couldn't be a net negative for them. I couldn't break shit, and I most certainly was put in situations where I could have broken shit. I couldn't break stuff. However, if I didn't produce something, there wasn't that stress that comes from you need to produce or else. So I was fairly, how do I put this, at ease. And being at ease allowed me to learn from some really, really good people. However, the problem is that the general consensus is that an internship is a scam. So I don't really know how to square that circle there, because there's no, because like the path to, I mean, technically the unpaid internship I had, I'm fairly certain that's illegal. The thing I like about the unpaid internship, to some extent, and I realize there are a lot of them that are scams, I'm just saying that not all of them are scams, is that it provides an environment to learn where there is a lower amount of stress. Because you're not under the requirement to produce a profit. So what I do here, since I can't afford to do the on-the-job thing, like I'm sorry, I know this, the last video I did on the Microsoft video, there was some, hyper-socialist communist that was really pissed at how I do business. I pinned the comment. I'm sure that another one's going to show up here. I'm sorry, I can't pay $12,000 to $16,000 out of pocket to figure out if you suck. Like, I just can't do that. And the way this works is if you hire someone for on-the-job learning and they suck, it's always the same thing. Just give me a little more time and I'll get it. But to give me a little more time and I'll get it means instead of it being $6,000, now you're spending $9,000 to figure out that they suck. Or $12,000 to figure out that they suck. Or $20,000 to figure out that they suck. And that's not something I could spend. I'm not fucking Walmart. I'm not Kmart. So what I do, and internships are also the type of internship that I had that worked for me. Not only is it the type of thing that where people will look down on you if you have them, even though I think they're very informative, but they are also illegal. So what I do is I try to put out as much content as I can. As much shit as I can. Here's how to do the job. Here's exactly how I do my job. Here's every little bit of information. Here's every little tool. Here's every little part. Here's my thought process so that you could get inside my head as I am doing the work so that you can understand exactly what I'm thinking and why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because seeing what I'm doing is not going to help you. Understanding why I'm doing it will allow you to perhaps figure out your own more efficient way that your mind understands, that you could wrap your mind around as to how to do it so that you could become even better than I am. I put all that out there because I want people to get better and I want people to learn. I just can't fucking pay you to learn. And I'm sorry. I know there'll be a bunch of comments saying you're I can't believe it. Employers like you are why no one has skills. I can't fucking pay you to learn. I could pay you to learn if at the end of 3 months, I know that you're not gonna suck. But I am in a very niche industry. And the people that are good at this are very rarely are the people you think would be good. I've hired people that have engineering degrees, and these people have sucked. And then there have been people like my shipping person. He is not college educated. He's a good guy, but for all intents and purposes, I would call him a bro. You know, your average bro. He presents himself as a bro. And he got so sick and tired of the monotonous job of shipping, the brain-dead job of shipping, that what he did is he spent an hour every day at work, staying extra, sitting next to one of the people who does board repair, asking them all sorts of questions. And then at one point when there wasn't a lot of shipping, because he finished it early, because he showed up early to finish the shipping early so that he could have time to do board repair later, he would sit next to them and say, "Can I try that?" And then he'd try it, and he would suck. And then he'd try it again, and he would suck slightly less. And then he would try it again, and he got good. And then he came to, to the management and said, "I'd like to try this as a job. I think I can do it." And we tried him out, and he was actually good. Now the thing is, the environment under which he learned was an environment where there wasn't pressure. And now he's one of the better board repair people that I've ever hired. If you want to talk to him about the theory as to how a buck converter works, like the actual theory, the VBST, VBHT, or what a charger boot, the charger boot cap is for, and an ISL 6259, he will give you a blank stare. He is not an engineer, but you know what he is really, really good at? Investigative board repair, being a detective, going through, understanding how everything that's in that 70-page schematic fits together, and what the sequence is, what is going to turn on first, and what's going to cause this to be a working machine. Is he going to design a robot on his own? Probably not. Is he going to be designing an amplifier on his own? Probably not. Is he going to fix a board? He does a very good job of it on a regular basis. His return rate is ridiculously low, and he does an amazing job. This is not a field where you can predict the people that will do well, because the people you think will do well, the IPC certified person that went to college for electronics engineering, will wind up being absolute horseshit. And the person that's just, a random bro that is in the shipping department, wind up being one of the best board repair people that you hired. It's really not predictable. So it's difficult to justify an outlay of $8,000 or $12,000 or $16,000 or $20,000 in a field where people typically don't get it until they get it. It's niche enough that, and it's where there's really a small pool of people that are going to be good at it, who are typically the eccentric types, and in a field where it doesn't matter how many times I explain something to you, you're not going to get it until you sit there and you figure it out for yourself. And what I find is that when you tell people you need to get it by this date, which is really the only way to economically try someone out at a business, you're not going to have someone sit there for a year or 2 years to get to the point that they finally figure it out. You sure as fuck are not going to give them 4 years like what it took me. You know what that really says for me? What a fucking moron I am. My shipping person got the hang of this shit in 2 months. I'm the owner of the business. It took me 4 years. Oh, man. No wonder I wound up getting fired from my job where I was the receiving clerk for furniture at the store at the Staten Island Mall. I probably didn't even have the brain necessary to do shipping. Yeah, I want people to have a skill set. I want them to but the reality is that the path that I took to learning a lot of this stuff, or at least the path that made me good at with the studio crap. With the studio gear, what made me good at the time was really just was that internship. It's not a path that is socially acceptable to encourage people to take. The unpaid apprenticeship or internship where you sit alongside someone who does this for a living, and you ask questions and you poke around and you work with them, and then when you're on your own time in your own bedroom, kind of screw around with stuff and put together things and try to figure stuff out on your own. The whole internship model is considered fundamentally immoral and a scam. And I get it. There's a lot of employers who have clearly fucked around and like tried to use their interns as slaves, who don't give a fuck if they learn anything. I've also worked for some of them. But it was worth it for me to deal with the scumbag in order to find a place where I would actually learn something. It kind of makes me sad that path to success is not really available. Like, at 1.35 million subscribers, I'm really not going to start offering internships that are illegal, because that would be really stupid. But it's the way I learned. And, like all the people that I have here, whether it's Steve or Paul or Dan, the people that really wound up excelling at the particular task they were given were just people that were kind of bored and tired of what they were doing, just decided, I'm going to try to figure this out on my own. And there was no set deadline. No deadline. It was just, if I get it, great, and if I don't get it, well, it was a fun hobby kind of thing. I really wish I had better luck with the learn on the job thing. I really do. Because one of the things that makes me depressed about this business and what makes it less easy to find someone and moving, one of the things I've tried to change is, let's say that there's more business. Let's say you have a spike in business at some point. You can't really hire immediately to deal with it. You just get crushed. So I felt really bad at some of the turnaround times we were giving people this year, because some of the turnarounds were just bad. They were bad. They were slow. It was awful. So we had very little business for the months of March and April. It was almost dead, to the point of me thinking I'm not going to have a business anymore. And then at some point, there was an explosion. And for a few weeks, it was just piles and piles of fucking MacBooks everywhere. And then it went back to being dead again. But for that few weeks where there were piles of MacBooks, there were people with services that we usually take 2 to 5 days to do that were taking 14, 20, 30 days. It was disgusting. And I really wish that I had a business model where when I needed more people, I could put out an ad. I could show them everything in a book. I could train them for 2 or 4 days and then have someone who's ready. But my experience has consistently been that even if I give someone 2 months for on-the-job training, it doesn't work. I've really tried it. I've put systems in place where literally every issue on every board with a problem and a solution is documented, where here's how to find water damage. Like, it's all right there in front of you. Here's how to see corrosion. Here's a component you should replace. Here's a component that can stay. Hundreds upon hundreds of videos, and you can find someone, and a few months later, and really just not up to it. And what it means is that it's not an easily scalable business. It's don't get me wrong. I mean, if I had Apple's budget, I'd probably still be stubborn and try and find a way to make it a scalable business. And I still believe that they haven't put in the fucking effort to at least try. But it's something where you can't just go on Craigslist and just like easily hire for it. So when there is a bump in business, what it means is you're gonna get creamed, and you're either doing what I do, which is stay at work ridiculously late, or when you finally find people that are good, even when it's dead, you're gonna you're gonna pay for them to stay on, which kind of decreases the profitability overall, which is where I'm at. Like, I'm at the point with the people that I have where even if things get ridiculously slow, I'm holding on to that person for dear life, because I can't let them go. Because if I let them go and they find another job, it's going to take me, 2 or 3 years. It'd take me 2 or 3 years to find another Paul, another Steve, another Camille, another David, another Dan, another Chris. It would probably take me 2 to 4 years to find another one of them. Because I've been through the, trying the on-the-job training thing. I've been in that trench. No, thank you. Can I teach a shipping person to do shipping on the job? Sure. Can I teach a customer service person? Yeah, it's a bit more difficult, but absolutely. Investigative board repair, data recovery. The idea of like having a few weeks of orientation and then a few weeks of training and then here, off you go. Yeah. Because I know that's the Michael Gerber way of doing business. That whole you should have a manual, and the manual that you have should be very detailed so that anybody is expendable and you can replace them, and you're not renting your business from your staff. And like maybe I am a bad business owner. It's very possible that I'm just not a good business owner. Like I'm a decent, halfway decent tech, halfway decent customer service person, halfway decent, maybe quarter way decent business owner. I don't know. Hard to tell. Hard to tell. But maybe if I was a better business owner, I'd figure out how to stack this. But I haven't found a business that does it. You know, I know businesses that do what we do, and I haven't really seen many of them scale to like 20 or 30 or 50 or 100 employees. Because at one point this year, I think I was at like 20, I think it was like 21 people or so this year or last year. 21 people is a lot of people. That's a lot of people. You know, I know businesses like this that will hire techs, but the techs actually know more than the management. So it's not where the business knows what they're doing, and then the business that knows what they're doing trains the technicians, but rather where the techs all know their stuff and have the management by the balls, because if they leave, the business is done for. You know, I've known businesses that have that going for them. I've known businesses like this that have like a couple of good people, maybe 4 or 5 or 6. I've never seen a business like this where they have like 100 or 400 or 900 people. And they, and you know, and they're just replaceable like cogs. Oh, we need another person that does, you know, component level board repair on affordable consumer products profitably. Let's just find another one, kind of thing. Maybe I'm just making excuses. It's always possible. Always possible. Really would like to see the place that's made that work, though. I think Jessa had something there when she said that it works. The people who learn this business the best are the people that don't have to make it work immediately. The people for whom if it works, that's great. If it doesn't work, oh well. Anyway, that's about it for today. As always, I hope you learned something. Gonna get Oreo some treats, and I'll see you later.